Cast your mind back to 2001. Some 41 are on the radio, people are dressing like this, and you most definitely have one of these. In October 2001, GTA 3 released on the PlayStation 2, and with it, laid the foundations for open worlds as we know them today. Back then, 3D open worlds weren't a thing, or at least not on this scale. Games didn't have streets full of pedestrians, or roads with a variety of cars that each handled differently from the next. And games didn't seamlessly blend driving, on-foot, and shooting gameplay. Most games were linear, and had shooting levels or driving levels, rarely in the same space. Quite frankly, without GTA 3, we would have none of these games. But as we approach the 20th anniversary of this monumental game, how does it hold up today? Are the controls a mess? Are its systems outdated? And has gaming moved on and left GTA 3 in the dust? To answer this, I'll be assessing Rockstar's masterpiece against modern games. And while most of it still holds up, there are issues. Issues which are so bad it felt like I was constantly banging my head against the wall. But before we officially start, there are two things to note. I'll be spoiling everything about GTA 3 throughout the review, and I'll also be referring to the devs as Rockstar, although DMA develops the game. DMA went on to form Rockstar North, but if you want to know more about the history of the series, I'll leave a link in the description. So with that out of the way, let's return to Liberty City and find out if GTA 3 is still great today. Yep, this is a game from 2001. Listen to that music. Anyway, this is how GTA 3 starts. We see Claude, our silent protagonist, robbing a bank before he's double-crossed by his girlfriend, Catalina. On the way to the penitentiary, our convoy is ambushed, and we make our escape along with explosives expert 8-Ball. 8-Ball introduces us to Luigi, a member of the Liberty City Mafia, and from this point on, we rise up the ranks of the criminal underworld and seek revenge on Catalina. And you know what? Considering this is GTA's first attempt at storytelling, it's actually pretty good. The story has clearly been influenced by epic crime dramas like The Godfather, The Sopranos, and Goodfellas, and in its greatest moments, this inspiration really shines through. There's moments where we whack suspected snitches, deliver prostitutes to the annual police ball, and the feuds with rival gangs, which usually involves blowing up buildings used to make drugs. It's important to stress that the characters play a big part here. Rockstar wanted GTA 3 to be more like the entertainment that inspired it, more like a film or a series and less like a video game, so they directed their voice actors to give a subtle, more natural performance. And it really does work. You can also see that mocap is used to add to each performance to make them more realistic, and surprisingly, it still holds up today. I mean, the graphics are atrocious, but at the time, this was revolutionary. Now, I can't remember what cutscenes were like in 2001, I was 9 at the time, but I think if we use something like Halo as a comparison, it shows just how far ahead GTA 3 was. Halo came out a month after GTA 3, but its cutscenes are stilted in comparison. People generally stand there and say their lines. Sometimes they'll raise an arm in the air, but that's really it. Now compare this to GTA 3, where characters move all over the place and use body language to emphasize certain words. It's pretty good, isn't it? I would say the cutscenes still hold up, apart from a couple of times. There was a cutscene right in the last mission where Claude is supposed to do this epic reversal in slow motion, and, well, it looked like this. If there's one thing I'd change about the story, it's that it needs more. It's extremely basic, as the cutscenes are all short and rarely add anything to the overall plot. This means there's a lot of unanswered questions left at the end. I still have no idea why Catalina double-crossed us, or why she acts the way she does. She's basically a pantomime villain who comes on stage, does something evil, and then disappears. It would have been good to have more of a backstory to show us her motives, or more details about her relationship with Claude. I'd be interested to hear all of this. But you know, we have to remember, and I will be bringing this up a lot, this was 2001 when narratives in games were still in their infancy. We didn't have any The Last of Us, any Witcher 3s, or any Mass Effects. We didn't have any complex villains or games that made us cry. And for what it is, GTA 3 is an engaging story with a handful of great moments. And even though at times it is bad, it's more funny than anything else. It's definitely a case of the story setting up the missions, which I'm perfectly fine with them.
Missions are this good. One reason this is that different parts of the sandbox are used for different missions. In some, we develop our own strategy using the weapons and vehicles at our disposal. But more commonly, missions are tailored around specific weapons. When we use the sniper, for example, we're always on top of a building shooting enemies below, or shooting enemies below. And when we use the rocket launcher, we're shooting planes out of the sky with a perfectly timed shot. It always felt like Rockstar were showcasing the sandbox in the best possible way. Outside combat missions also use vehicles. Sometimes they're simple, like driving across town before time runs out. But other times they're like breaking someone out of jail by blowing a hole in their cell wall with a car bomb. This was very reminiscent of that mission in Red Dead Redemption 2, which isn't anything to do with the review, but I thought it was cool. What's surprising here is that modern sandbox games don't do this. I played Watch Dogs 2 last year, which, like GTA 3, has varied weapons and vehicles, including boats. But none of its missions use any of this throughout the game. Instead, we're given the same objectives over and over. We go to an area, do something, and then leave. Whereas GTA 3 gives us unique objectives each time. I mean, there are over 50 main missions in GTA 3. That's over 50 missions with different objectives, different setups, and ultimately different ways to play. And it really is different every time. New mechanics are introduced well into the late game and used just once. You know how modern sandbox games have too many tailing missions? Well, there's one in GTA 3. It was used once and never again. But it's not all perfect. Far from it, actually, as some missions range from slightly frustrating to absolutely infuriating. I always found these were the missions focused more on combat, which unfortunately isn't great by today's standards. The actual shooting is pretty poor, as weapons lack decent feedback and there's no hit markers to indicate your shot is connecting. This means if you're shooting at an enemy, it's not clear if you're actually doing damage. And some weapons can only be fired when standing still, like you're playing Resident Evil. In an action-orientated game, this isn't good, as we can't strafe to dodge incoming fire and essentially have to stand there soaking up damage. But more broadly, the issues lie with the game's brutal difficulty and overly punishing systems, as GTA 3 is one of the hardest games I've ever played. And I don't mean the good type of difficulty, where it's rewarding to overcome a challenge. I mean the bad type, where everything is unfairly stacked against us. Claude, for example, is fragile. He can't take significant damage and dies easily from one enemy with an assault rifle. It gets ridiculous at times when you spend 5 minutes driving to an objective just to be instantly gunned down when you get there. The last mission in particular was notorious for this, as there are 2 enemies guarding the entrance to the dam. I mean, look how quickly I'm losing body armor here. Did you see that? But not only does Claude die in 1 versus 1s, Rockstar places enemies in impossible positions, like around a corner or hiding behind doors. This means you'll always fail these missions on your first attempt, simply because you had no idea an enemy was standing there. But possibly the absolute worst mechanic is when gangs turn hostile after you cross them in the story. At first, I was really impressed with this, as the world is reacting to our actions, like the best RPGs. But its implementation has been so poorly thought out, I wish it never existed. For one, there are too many gang members on the street, which means no matter where you are, you'll always encounter a group of enemies. But it's also due to how aggressive they are, as they instantly open fire as soon as you're within a 10-mile radius. Driving around Liberty City feels like you're playing Outriders, as you're constantly bombarded by incoming fire from enemies with pinpoint accuracy. It's not so bad for some gangs, as you can shrug off submachine gun fire easily, but other gangs, like the Mafia, are equipped with high-powered shotguns that blow your car up in 2 shots. And if you're on foot, 1 shot knocks you to the ground before the second shot finishes you off. In modern games, we'd have checkpoints throughout the mission, so this mechanic wouldn't be as punishing. If we did get blown up by a rival gang, then it's fine, as we can easily restart at the point we died at. But as this is 2001,
are no checkpoints whatsoever. Every time we die, we respawn at the hospital and head back to the start of the mission. And as some missions need certain weapons to beat them, you'll waste time going to an ammunition or your safe house to restock. This becomes a serious problem for some missions that require a lot of trial and error to beat. I think I failed most missions once and some up to 5 times, as there was no way to beat them using conventional methods. I genuinely found it easier to sit back and lob grenades into an arena or to use a vehicle as temporary cover. Is this what Rockstar planned? This is at its worst during the emergency vehicle missions, which felt like all of these issues came together for maximum frustration. It's so bad at times that I actually think it makes them impossible to beat. If you played GTA 3 back in the day,
You'll know that completing these missions unlocks permanent upgrades at our safe house. If you complete 20 vigilante missions in each island, you'll unlock 6 police bribes, and it's the same for firefighter missions to unlock a flamethrower. But the problem is, if your vehicle blows up, you fail these missions. So, as we're constantly getting shot by gangs, you can see the problem here. I literally couldn't beat the paramedic missions because my ambulance would get blown up from sustained damage around level 8. I've read strategies online, and most suggest completing these missions early on. If you can drive the ambulance through the city before the gangs turn hostile, then clearly it's less frustrating. But nobody playing GTA 3 for the first time would have this knowledge. They probably beat all the main missions before ticking off side content, which is the logical thing to do. I think if you're going for a 100% run, you'd need a course of anger management afterwards. Seriously. Luckily, I wasn't going for 100%, so I actually enjoyed these missions for what they are. A nice diversion that doesn't require much thought to beat. We're presented with the same objective every time. Put out fires, take down criminals, deliver patients. And we're left to tackle them in any way we want. But the main reason these missions are fun is because of the driving, which is still solid even today. Driving is such an integral part of sandbox games, as it's how we move through the world. Some games have more mobility options, but generally, we spend most of our playtime driving to objectives or simply as we explore. So, when the driving doesn't feel good, it can be enough to stop playing a game. For example, I'm happy driving around San Francisco in Watch Dogs 2, but there's no way I'm driving around the island of Solace in Just Cause 4. And I think this is one reason why we're still playing GTA 5 even now, because the driving is so good. I've always thought GTA 5 was the gold standard for driving in open world games. And now, after replaying GTA 3, I see why. I think the biggest praise I can give to driving is that it feels good. Now, I know that's not necessarily helpful, but I found the vehicles to be snappy and responsive and capable of turning at high speeds, a bit like an arcade racer, rather than being realistic. Although compared to GTA 5, it's clear to see which areas were in fact worked on over those 12 years, as there are parts of the driving which are atrocious. The car physics, for one, was so bad they give the Mako a run for its money. Basically, the cars in GTA 3 are made out of styrofoam, where the smallest of taps or slight nudges flings you into the air. It's so bad at times, where a small bump will flip your car vertically on itself, like that scene in The Dark Knight. This wouldn't be a problem if we could auto-correct our car once it's flipped, but in GTA 3, this feature was never included. We also can't exit a vehicle until it's pretty much stationary. So if our car is on fire and we're getting rammed, we physically can't exit the vehicle and we're basically dead. This happens a lot, by the way, as the cops are extremely aggressive. They constantly ram into you at high speed, sending your car hurtling through the air. I failed missions because of this, when cars would ram me until I exploded, or push me into a river. And as this is before games let us swim underwater, you just die. That's it. Compared to modern GTAs, the control scheme is also outdated. And I'd say if you're thinking about replaying GTA 3 on Xbox or PS2, then be prepared for what's in store. The first thing you'll notice is that you move Claude with the left thumbstick only, and the camera is locked in place. Yep, you can't use the right thumbstick to move the camera like you can in every modern game. This also means you can't aim manually, as you're not using both thumbsticks like an FPS. So you have to lock onto enemies and then hold down shoot. And this isn't the right trigger either. It's circle or B. Can you remember it being like that? I couldn't, but yeah, this was pre-Halo. To get around this, I'd recommend the Steam version, as you can mod it with controller support in GTA 5 controls. But even then, the aim is wonky, so weapons sometimes shoot off to the side, or sometimes diagonally. There's also bugs, like one that turns all of the cars black that Rockstar never patched, and one where an objective marker was stuck on my minimap, so I'd sometimes go to that one instead of the actual objective for the mission. There are fixes online for this, but it takes a while to get set up, especially if you're a console gamer like me. But even when everything is fixed, GTA 3 still lacks features that we know from modern games. The way we jump is shocking, for example, as Claude will bounce off anything in front of him. There's also no mantle or ledge grab, so you'll sometimes be stuck behind the smallest of barriers as Claude can't figure out how to clamber over it. I think parts of the game are fine, but if Rockstar did remake GTA 3, this would be the one thing I'd change. Make the movement system more fluid and update the entire control scheme, because it will ruin the experience if you're playing on console. Right, so we've already looked at what GTA 3 gets right, and unfortunately gets wrong. And now I want to finish this review by talking about the best part of the game,
a part that was ahead of its time and still puts some modern open worlds to shame. The open world in GTA 3 is one of the best I've ever seen. Full stop. And this is really because it delivers on everything we expect from an open world. The visual variety and interesting things to see, the rewards that push us into exploration, and the realism. Now, that last one may come as a shock to you. I mean, how can something that looks this bad be realistic? But we'll get on to that. First up, let's talk about how Liberty City is detailed and full of interesting things to see. Liberty City is divided into 3 wildly different islands. The starting area of Portland is run down and industrial. There's low-quality apartment blocks and a red light district home to mafia-owned strip clubs. In the second island of Staunton, everything is more developed. There's wide roads, skyscrapers, a university, a football stadium, and 69th Street, with its theaters, cinemas, and restaurants. And finally, when we get to Shoreside Vale, we see the impressive Cochrane Dam and the massive Liberty City Airport. The airport is fully explorable too, so we can drive our car onto the runway and attempt to fly GTA 3's only plane, the Dodo. I've only described a handful of things here, but already you can see each island has its own unique identity. And if you didn't know what I was talking about a game, you'd think this was a real place, probably most similar to New York. This is so important for any open world game, as seeing something new makes us intrigued in the world around us. We see different buildings and landmarks, but in GTA 3, we also see tiny details hidden throughout the city. It could be a spoof poster for a 69th Street musical, a newspaper headline, or a joke about one of the many businesses in Liberty City. There's so much content that I always wanted to keep playing just to see what was in store on the next island. If there's one negative here, it's that Liberty City is superficial. Sure, there are loads of interesting buildings, but we never go inside any of them, apart from ammunition. It's disappointing because the locations are so good. Imagine going inside the university, or inside the different airport terminals, or even inside Kenji's casino and playing poker. It's an area where GTA 3 falls short compared to Rockstar's later games. But again, this was 2001. I think if modern games lacked this, it would be a bigger issue. Next up, rewards. The best open-world games understand that we need rewards to push us into the world to explore. We need collectibles, unique weapons, stat boosts, that type of thing. So how does GTA 3 do here? Pretty well, actually. There are pickups hidden throughout the world, which temporarily make us stronger. This also saves a lot of backtracking if you know there are pickups near the start of a mission. For example, there's a health pickup near the start of Asuka's missions, and a shotgun near the start of Ray's mission. But there's one reward that was, and still is, genius. And yep, you've probably guessed it, it's the hidden packages. We all know hidden packages as they're a feature in modern GTAs, but back in 2001, they were a first for the series. As you'll know, there are 100 packages hidden throughout the world that permanently unlock weapons or boosts back at our safe house. Early on, we unlock weaker weapons like the pistol and submachine gun. But soon we unlock powerful weapons, like grenades at 30 and body armor at 50. Oh, and we're notified we've unlocked something on our in-game pager. Pagers, can you remember them? They were weird, weren't they? But the best thing about the hidden package is how Rockstar puts them in places we'd never look. Like one on a rock in the middle of the sea. Who the hell would think of looking here? This is really clever though, as Rockstar is telling us we need to explore the entire map to find all of the packages, so we need to search every space with a fine-tooth comb. I even spent around 20 minutes running through the hills in Shoreside. There was nothing up there, but the fact we could explore here freely was a massive plus. If this was a modern game, we'd have a kill timer, or some text on screen that says, "Turn back." I also think modern games ruin what makes the hidden packages so special, as collectibles or similar items would be shown to us on the map, or they'd appear when we were in the area, or there would be an in-game item we can buy which shows them all to us. But doing this takes away the joy in finding one. If all of the hidden packages were shown to us, finding them would be mundane busy work, going from marker to marker, rather than searching for them ourselves. I wish more modern games would revert to this system. It was pretty much perfect back then. Finally, realism. I think Liberty City is more realistic and better developed than some open worlds. The NPCs, for example, are on the street in high numbers, which actually isn't far off from what we have today. They also react to our actions. If we blow up a car, groups of people gather round to investigate. If we steal their car, they'll steal it back. And NPCs interact with each other, independently from us, like gangs having shootouts and people getting into fistfights.
And then, if someone is injured, paramedics turn up and resuscitate them. This is incredible, and it's actually better than the NPCs in Cyberpunk. I actually liked Cyberpunk. I thought the characters and narrative saved it, but its open world was appalling at times. How GTA 3 can do this with limited technology and a 600 megabyte file size is actually a joke. I guess the difference here is that a lot of pedestrians are the same character model copy and pasted. But let's put that down to a limitation in technology and move swiftly on. Liberty City is also built like a real city. It has buildings under construction, 3 different islands, police stations, hospitals, and more. But the most impressive thing is the train system, which includes an extensive subway system on each island. We can freely explore the subway stations and even ride the train to the next stop. I mean, this is better than Watch Dogs Legion, where we couldn't even go down into the tube. So, you can see all of this is great, but Rockstar takes everything to the next level by using loads of tiny details to immerse us in the world. There was always something happening in the background, like planes taking off from the airport, seagulls flying down by the docks, for sale signs outside houses, power lines in the hills, and of course, the radio stations. Driving around the city and listening to the radio felt like the icing on the open world cake. There are 9 stations in total, which range from classical music to 90s trance, and have hosts that are believable as actual people, like the host of the 80s pop station Flashback FM, a party girl from the 80s who says things like this, or Laszlo, the host of Chatterbox FM, who regularly gets into arguments with people who phone in. Characters in the game even call into Laszlo's show and speak about their problems, which genuinely blew me away. Maria, the girlfriend of Salvatore, goes on the show to say she has feelings for Claude, but she's unsure if he feels the same, as he never says anything. And I mean, the adverts in between songs are still hilarious even today. I should point out, even though it might not be intentional, that the most realistic thing about GTA 3 is the fact there's no in-game map. I couldn't believe this when I started playing, but yep, we have to navigate through Liberty City using a paper map that comes with the game. So this means if we're lost, we pause the game without this bad boy and try to figure out where we are. There's also no waypoint system, so we're left to head over to this tiny square all on our own. This can be frustrating, as I was constantly getting lost trying to find an ammunition or a pay and spray. But I'd argue that these initial frustrations are worth the feeling of mastery that comes in the mid to late game. In most modern games, everything is planned out for use as we follow a predetermined route through the world. In modern games, it always feels like we're on a guided tour, being led through the sites the devs want us to see. But in GTA 3, it feels like we're exploring at our own pace, gradually learning our way around, just like we've moved to a new city. We're also forced to learn the map, as most missions are timed. If one of these starts on one island and finishes on the next, we need to find a bridge or an entrance to the tunnel as quickly as possible. If you haven't learned the map, you'll fail as time runs out. In the end though, it's all worth it. When the final credits rolled, I knew the map like the back of my hand. I always felt like a resident of Liberty City and never a tourist. Okay, so now let's move on to that final question. Is GTA 3 still great? Now, my answer to this question changed with every hour I played, but I'd say yes, GTA 3 is still great, or at least 75% of it is. The 25% that makes up the overly punishing systems and the baffling controls are infuriating, and depending on the type of player you are, this may be enough for you to stop playing. But I'd say that pushing through those difficult moments is worth it in the end. The varied missions, the vast sandbox, and its open world are still exceptional even now, and better than modern games. If you've been disappointed by modern open world games, then you'll enjoy what GTA 3 has on offer. But I think if there's one thing we take away from GTA 3, it's that you can create something special with limited technology and a clear vision. Everything here was new for Rockstar, and the fact they pulled it off on their first attempt is outstanding. GTA 3 is and always will be one of the greatest games ever made. And as we approach its 20th anniversary, I'd like to thank it for the contribution it's made to a medium we all love.